I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I'm a 6-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists. And as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have another Victober video for you. Last year I talked about my 10 least favorite or most hated Victorian characters. So I thought this year it would be fun to talk about my 10 best, most favorite, most adored Victorian characters. We have a lot of Margaret Oliphant on here. Last time it was Elliot, now this time it's Margaret Oliphant. Interesting. So, I've got 10 characters here to talk about. Let's jump in. Spot number 10 is actually a very new favorite, and this is someone you will get to encounter if you are participating in this year's group read. This is Sigismund Smith from The Doctor's Wife by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Sigismund, first of all, is a ridiculous name, and his real name is Sam. He changed it to Sigismund. He is a sensation novelist, writing for magazines about murder and adultery and all kinds of other stuff. And he's just a great character. He also appears in The Lady's Mile, which was published a few years later. Now, Sigismund's role in the novel, in both novels, is very limited. Actually, he's really only in 2 scenes in The Lady's Mile. He's much more prominent in The Doctor's Wife. But even though he's such a minor character, he is the one that really just jumps off the page. I absolutely love him. I am writing a dissertation chapter on The Doctor's Wife, largely talking about Sigismund Smith as a kind of alter ego for Mary Elizabeth Braddon to express how much she actually did enjoy writing sensation fiction. I will be doing a whole video on that later in the month, so I won't go into it now, but Sigismund is just such a fun character. Oh, and another way he's great, so he's changed his name from Sam to Sigismund. We find that out in The Doctor's Wife. In The Lady's Mile, he has moved on from serialized magazine stories to writing 3-volume novels, and he decides he's going to change his name Smith, S-M-I-T-H, to Smith, S-M-Y-T-H, because he thinks it looks fancier. Like, how can you not love this guy? He's great. I hope that all of you reading The Doctor's Wife for the first time this Victober love him as much as I do. Numbers 9 and 8 actually come from the same book. And to be honest, I had kind of a hard time here because I just wanted to include all of the characters from this book because they are all wonderful. But then the list would have just been one book. And I thought that that would be not great. So in number 9, I have Abraham Van Helsing from Bram Stoker's Dracula. And in number 8, I have Jonathan Harker, also from Dracula. We will talk about Van Helsing first. Van Helsing gets called in to consult on Lucy's illness because he was a mentor of Dr. John Seward and has lots of knowledge about weird diseases no one has ever seen before. This man is incredibly intelligent. He's a doctor. He's a professor. He does metaphysics. It's crazy. He can do blood transfusions. He's a philosopher too. And he is just one of the sweetest men in this book. Actually, the men are all wonderful here. My last video was just basically hating on men the whole time, or Victorian literary men. All of the men in this book are wonderful. But Van Helsing is just so incredibly sweet and kind. And I love the way he interacts with Lucy and with Mina and with the whole rest of the group. He's just so kind. And every adaptation I've seen ruins him. The 1992 movie I was particularly disappointed in because they made him so cold and uncaring about people's feelings and needs, when in this book he's just the kindest man. I just really love him, okay? I love everyone in this book. And for Jonathan Harker, again, like a very kind person who is so in love with his wife. It is so incredibly sweet. He's like collecting recipes for her while he's in Romania. I'm like, oh, he's just so thoughtful. He loves her so much. And even though he goes through such a traumatic experience at Castle Dracula, he is able to pull himself together at the end and get shit done. I love him. I love everyone in this book. As I said, these two could easily be replaced with Mina or Lucy or John Seward or Quincy Morris or Arthur Holmwood, any of them. I love all of them. But I think for me, Van Helsing and Jonathan Harker are kind of the top two. Coming in at number 7 is the first of many Margaret Oliphant characters. This is Nettie Underwood from The Doctor's Family. The Doctor's Family is the third work in the Chronicles of Carlingford. It follows Dr. Edward Ryder, whose brother is causing him problems. And then his brother's wife, children, and sister-in-law show up on his doorstep when he didn't even know his brother was married. Nettie is the sister-in-law, and she is wonderful. She has been raised in Australia. She is practical. She knows how to get things done. She's no nonsense and is basically the only capable one in this family of getting anything done. I love her. I felt so bad for her through a solid 80% of the book, I guess, because her sister is a mess. Her brother-in-law is a mess. He's an alcoholic. And the children are running rampant, and she is the one that has to deal with all of this. And she always feels that she needs to put their needs before her own. I love her. I loved how practical she was. I loved how she was just willing to basically yell at everybody. Like, even her brother-in-law, she was just like, no, not dealing with that. Do what I tell you to do. And he did. So she's a great character. I would highly recommend picking this up just to encounter her, but also because it's a great book. Number 6, we have another Margaret Oliphant character. This is Phoebe Beecham from Phoebe Jr. This is another Chronicle of Carlingford. It is the last one in the series. Phoebe is the granddaughter of Mr. Tozer, the butterman, who lives in Carlingford. She is going to stay with her grandparents and kind of take care of them. She has been raised in the city and is used to kind of a higher class of people than the circles her family runs in Carlingford. Their family are dissenters, and in the city there is kind of a high class of dissenters. Not so much in the country, where they are all shopkeepers and buttermen and whatnot. So she has a little bit of a culture shock when she gets there. However, Phoebe is going to make the best of any situation. She, again, is incredibly practical. Margaret Oliphant writes these really practical women, and I'm just like, yeah. She is able to mend bridges between the dissenters of Carlingford and the people who are more high church. She makes friends with the children of the high church minister, and she makes an incredibly difficult choice. Basically, just on practicality alone, and I totally understood why she did that. I'm trying to be vague so that if you read it, you're not spoiled for it. But Phoebe is a great character, and she has a lot in common with another Margaret Oliphant character who we will be getting to later. Coming in at number 5 is another wonderful Victorian literary man. This is Gabriel Betteredge from The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. So The Moonstone concerns the disappearance of a moonstone, a very valuable moonstone, at a country house. Gabriel Betteredge is kind of the head servant of this house. And he is just, he's so sweet. I love him. He basically bases his life philosophy around Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. Like, in times of trouble, he takes down Robinson Crusoe and reads passages of it, like you would do with the Bible. I love him. He acts as kind of the Watson to Sergeant Cuff, who's investigating the disappearance of the Moonstone, and he is our narrator for the first part of the book, like a pretty hefty part of it as well. Like, yeah, like that much of the book. He is such a fun character. He has such a great narrative voice that Wilkie Collins captures perfectly. And I just truly adore him. And I need to reread this now because I'm thinking about how much I love Gabriel Betteredge. Coming in at number 4 is another Victorian literary man. And he is on this list not because he is sweet and wonderful like Jonathan Harker or Van Helsing or Gabriel Betteredge, but because he's an idiot. This is Mr. Lockwood from Wuthering Heights. Mr. Lockwood rents Thrushcross Grange from Heathcliff, claiming that he wants to have solitude, except he keeps going over to Wuthering Heights and bothering Heathcliff because he wants somebody to talk to. This man, he ends up getting the full story of the batshit stuff going on from the housekeeper Nellie Dean. But before that happens, he goes over to Wuthering Heights multiple times. He meets the young Catherine Heathcliff, who was Catherine Linton. He meets Hareton, and he meets, of course, Heathcliff himself. He falls in love with Catherine, but yeah. You don't want her to end up with him. He's a moron. It's great. There is a scene where he's speaking with Catherine and he asks her something about all the dogs that are running around in the room. She's like, they're not mine. I don't have anything to do with them. He goes, oh, your favorites must be among these. And he points over to what he thinks is a cushion with cats on it. And I just need to read it to you. Unluckily, it was a heap of dead rabbits. This man is so stupid. I love him so much. I don't know why. He's not a particularly likable character. He is just so dumb that I enjoy reading about him very, very much. Unfortunately, it was a heap of dead rabbits. And for that, he is number 4 on this list. Sitting at number 3, we have another Margaret Oliphant character. This is Lucilla Marchbanks from Miss Marchbanks. Lucilla, I frequently say, is what Emma Woodhouse from Jane Austen's Emma wanted to be. She is a leading figure in Carlingford society. She knows exactly how to throw the perfect party. She knows exactly how to talk to people to get exactly what she wants. And she even knows how to get her preferred candidate elected into Parliament. Again, another very capable Margaret Oliphant character. But Lucilla does it all while seeming to just not be trying to do all these things. She seems a little bit silly, and she's always saying, "Oh, I just want what's best for my dear papa." But really, she is working her way up the Carlingford social ladder. Go read this book. She is so much fun. It is so much fun following her journey. It is written in this mock heroic style that's always talking about how Lucilla is conquering her foes when she is dealing with someone in society that isn't doing exactly what she wants. If you like the idea of Emma, if Emma weren't, you know, incompetent, this is the book for you. Number 2, and this of course has to be Jane Eyre, from Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I have loved Jane since I was 15 years old. Her narrative voice is just like talking to a friend and hearing this wild story from your friend. It is so conversational and pleasant. And even though she's keeping stuff from you, because of course, you know, it needs to have some suspense, but you forgive her because the way that she reveals it all is just so wonderful. Are her life choices bad? Sometimes. Would I go back with Rochester? No. Would I advise my friend to go back with Rochester? No. But you know, when I'm reading it, I'm like, I get why she does it. She is so fiercely independent. She insists upon her equality with those who would usually think they are better than her because of their class or their gender. And she just has such strong morals and beliefs, and she will do what she feels is right, even if it hurts her and the people around her. She will not compromise her moral compass. I just love this character. Honestly, she would have been my top choice up until a few years ago because, and I think she's a lot of people's top choice. She's just a very relatable character, and the way that Bronte writes her, you feel very close to her. However, a few years ago, I encountered for the first time my new favorite character in Victorian literature, and I reread it this year, and that cemented the fact that this is my favorite character in Victorian literature. This is Gwendolen Harleth from Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. George Eliot did make it onto the favorites list. It's just not one of her men because her men mostly suck. Gwendolen Harleth is not a particularly likable person. The first section of this is called The Spoiled Child, and that's referring to Gwendolen. She's kind of a brat. She's kind of mean to her sisters and to her mother. She wants what she wants, and she'll take it. However, she feels so psychologically real in this book. And she goes through such a transformation upon her marriage to Mr. Grandcourt. Grandcourt, is that his name? Does it say on the back? No, why would it say on the back? That would be useful. We can't have useful things on the back of classics. I'm pretty sure it's Mr. Grandcourt. And she goes through such a transformation that is just beautiful. Her realizing, oh God, I have screwed up multiple times. And I just love her. I love her for not being perfect, I think is what it is. I like her I tend to like non-likable characters. Case in point, Mr. Lockwood over there. And I think Gwendolen is very much one of those. Even though she's not horrible or anything. It's just she's a kind of selfish, spoiled person. George, I'm not making a good case for her. She just feels so real. George Eliot does such a great job making her characters feel real, particularly in Daniel Deronda and in Middlemarch, that I fell in love with Gwendolen. She ousted Jane Eyre. That takes a lot. So if you want a really complex, complicated, and not necessarily likable character from Victorian literature, I highly recommend you go to Daniel Deronda and check out Gwendolen Harleth. And then if you want a more likable character, you do have Daniel Deronda, who is more likable but kind of boring, to be perfectly frank. But at least he's not George Eliot's usual horrible man character. You get that with other people in this book. But yeah, Gwendolen is truly great. So those are my top 10 characters in Victorian literature, the ones that I love the absolute most. Let me know down in the comments below. Do we have any in common? Are there any here who you're like, Elizabeth, I can't believe you like that character. What is wrong with you? Who are your favorite characters in Victorian literature? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon for another Victober video. Bye.